Yo, what's up, everybody? It's Mac here, and welcome to TD Building Blocks, where artists can learn Touch Designer one creative block at a time. To me, Touch Designer is a living canvas, and instead of brushes and paint, we can use operators and data. So today, we're going to make our first animation. As you can see here, we have a rectangle that's gliding across the screen. We're not using any keyframes to animate, just data in motion. All right, so take a look here. We have our rectangle. We're placing it in a transform, which allows us to do some more motion. And then we have a null top. And then we just have two operators that are driving our data and LFO connected to a null chop. Okay. So first things first, let's delete everything. Okay. So we're going to get rid of both the visuals and the motion. Okay. We're going to get rid of the box. Let's close out our network editor. So this is what you would see, okay? If you deleted everything from your network, you should have an empty canvas, okay? So the first thing we're gonna do, now you can either double click on the network to add, okay? That brings up your create dialog box. You can middle mouse, excuse me, not middle mouse, you can tab also to bring up your op create dialog. So get in the habit of some of these shortcuts. Let's go to tab, okay? And then we're gonna go to rectangle. Now you can also type inside the search bar and it will highlight matching operators. Okay, so we're gonna place down a rectangle one. Okay, let's rename it rec one. Okay, so now we've renamed it rec one. The size is 0.5 by 0.5. Everything's in the middle. Okay. And what we want to do here is we're going to add a transform top. So if you want to connect a operator to an existing operator, you're going to middle mouse click the output. Okay. So if we middle mouse click the output here, then we're going to select transform. Okay. And let's rename, okay, it's already named transform one, so we're good there. And the final thing we're gonna do is we are going to add a null top to this. So we're gonna middle mouse click again and add a null top. And basically a null top just allows us to end our network, and whatever the final result is kind of held in this empty operator, okay? So we want to see what's going to happen to our network as we change. So we're going to turn the null display on, okay? Now, if you see I already have mine turned off, but probably you're going to see this happen when you turn your display on, right? And to get rid of that, you can go to this, you can just right click on the canvas and then go to your menu, look for display, and we're going to turn off backdrop tops and chops if you have those selected. Okay, so let's turn that off. Now, also, if you see this color palette down here, you can do the same thing. You can turn it off using right click, or you can just hit the letter C. Now, if you are selecting your different nodes and you see your parameter box in the right corner, if you hit P, you can hide your parameter box. Okay. And if you guys just saw that, if I hit O, that actually brings up your operator. So that's a quick way to move through operators. Okay, so the next thing we want to do is we want to change our rect1. So let's pull up our parameters again. We're just going to change our rect1 color to red. Okay, and we want to, there's one more adjustment we're going to make. We are going to scale. Okay, we're going to scale down our rectangle. Now, there's a couple cool ways to do this. You can middle mouse click the box and change by the increments selected. So if you hold it and middle mouse click, you can see there's different increments. If you do it on an individual box, it's going to manipulate just that box. However, if you middle mouse click on the name, it will impact both. So go ahead and middle mouse click the name, and we're just going to bring that down by 0.1 increments, okay? And bring that down to 0.5. The last thing we're going to do is we're going to change our background color alpha. So that's the last value on this row. And then we want to comp over background color. Okay. So now we have a black background and a red rectangle. Nothing's happening yet, but that's okay. Now, the next thing we're going to do is create our motion network. So what we want to do here is we're going to tab again, and we're going to look for chops. These are channel operators. And the first channel operator we want is an LFO chop. Now, as you can see right now, the LFO chop is already in motion. It's sending values in a smooth motion. Think of like a sine wave, right? If you look at the type here, going from -1 to 1. Okay, and what we want to do is we want to slow this down a little bit. So we're going to change our frequency to 0.2. Okay, so now we can see it moving nice and slow. Okay. And we're going to call this, we're going to actually change our channel. Okay, so if you go to the second page, and these are pages in your parameters. If you go to your second page in your parameter, we're going to change this to rect_tx. Now, name is important because what we want to do is we want to know that this channel is going to be impacting the TX motion of our rectangle. The final thing we're going to do is add a null. So we're going to middle mouse click. And this is a null chop. Okay. And when you add this null chop, again, this is just a container that's holding the output of our LFO. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is we're just going to organize our network a little bit, because as we're building nodes, it's very easy to lose track of what we're doing. So highlight your purple nodes. These are your tops, your purple operators, I should say. And we're going to hit Shift B, which creates a network box, and then you should see your color palette come up. We're going to call this visuals. Okay. And we're going to make it purple. Now, the nice thing about a network box is when you have operators inside of the network box, then you can just move your network box. And if you zoom out too much, you will go outside of the operator. So if this happens, if you zoom out and you see the project, just double click to go in, or your shortcuts would be up, U for up, and I for inside, as long as the operator is selected. Okay, so we have a visuals network box, and then the other one, we're going to select our two chops. Again, hit Shift B. We're going to call this motion. Okay. And let's make this green. Oh, plus. Okay. And now we have our boxes ready. So we have a motion box and we have a visuals box. And then we have our operators inside, which is nice because then if we want to move things around, it's all grouped nicely. All right, so the next thing we want to do is let's turn on our or let's split our canvas. So if you go over here, all the way to the far right, there's an arrow says pane options. We're going to click that and we're going to split it left and right. Okay, so you can have multiple copies of the same canvas. And then we're just going to hit this shorter arrow here and turn it into a top viewer. So we just want to see what our rectangle is showing. Okay, and so if you turn this off, the blue button of the null, the display active, can't see it, you turn it on and we can see it. And usually it's the last top selected that has a viewer active that will enable you to see things. All right, we're almost there. So the final thing we're gonna do is we're gonna take our motion data, okay, and we're going to move our translate X. So if you thought about it, right, if we were to manually move our translate X, right, this is what we're trying to affect, okay, and we want this to happen automatically. How do we do that? So we're gonna take our LFO, okay, which is a sine wave, and it's going from 0 to 1. Okay, so let's set our null viewer active, not the display, the viewer active. Okay, so this means that we can now select this data. So with our transform selected, okay, or highlighted, you want to be able to see these parameter boxes. Okay, and if I expand these, right, we can see all the different values that are here in our parameters, right? So TX, TY, and T unit. And so all we're gonna do is select this rectx value and drop it in, okay? And we want the chop reference, okay? And as soon as we drop it in, you can see that the LFO information is now driving the animation of the transform chop. Now, if you want to turn it off, we can make it a constant. So these are constants or expressions. So we can turn it off. It's going to reset it to 0. But if you wanted to type this quickly, okay, we could also just reference the Python. So we could type op, okay, and we're taking the null to, right? And then we want the rectangle. So we're going to use square brackets and we want the rect tx channel. And we're going to hit that and we're going to make it blue. And we're going to get an error because I did not put the rect tx in parentheses. I mean, in quotation, so it doesn't know what channel. And now, again, we have our channel working. Okay, so always remember your single quotes to reference the name. Okay. Now, last thing, if we wanted to change the speed or the offset, right? Or even the amplitude, okay? So we could have this go faster by moving our frequency. Okay, so now we have a faster rectangle. We could have it go super slow. And then also if we wanted to keep it on the screen, we could adjust our amplitude. Okay, so it won't move as much. We could bring that really far down. Okay. But now you have quickly built your first motion and your first animation in TouchDesigner. You only needed 5 operators to do it. One connection of data. Okay, we didn't have to do any animation. This is a very simple way to start to learn what TouchDesigner does and how you can manipulate data in different ways. Okay, for more questions, make sure, and if you would like to, okay, so that's your first creative block. You've just learned how to build, scale, name, and connect a network and the foundation for everything that comes next. As always, you can download the project files and cheat sheet on Patreon and join our Discord to share your version. Okay, next episode, we're going to start painting with pixels and layering visuals. See you there.